the styles? How do we work with the styles in HTML? What are the various techniques of styles? Three important options we learned: that styles can be used inline, styles can be used embedded, and styles can be used CSS, external style sheets. Those are the basic things. Now, after understanding what is difference, means in how many ways you can use styles, in how many ways we can use styles, then you have to understand the style syntax. Styles syntax. Actually, the syntax of styles, that means how to write them, depends on where you are writing. First option, if you are writing inline syntax, usually it will be in any element we have to write style is equal to, we have to define attribute colon value. That is how we have to write. So style attribute 1 and value. Now we have another attribute, then semicolon, another attribute 2 and its value. That's how we have to define the style when you are writing the style inline. So the basic inline syntax is this, right? When you are writing the style, embedded and external style sheet. When you are writing embedded and external style sheet, then the basic syntax is, you have to write like this. We have to put a selector. For embedded, you have to keep in style tag. Inside the style tag, you have to write like this. You need a selector, and we have to define an attribute colon attribute 1 colon value, and semicolon attribute 2 colon value. That is how we have to write the styles. So what is selector? Selector is important for styles when they are written outside element, because when you are writing style inside element, that means these will work for that element. But when you are writing embedded and external style sheet, you have to tell where to apply them. So where to apply them, whether to apply inline, whether to apply means whether to apply to headings, whether to apply to paragraphs, where you want to apply, that you have to tell. Technically, the selectors, when we are defining the selectors, usually it defines where to apply. So that I will tell you, we will see that. So generally, a selector specifies the target location where the given effects are applied. That is selector. A selector specifies the target location where the given effects are applied. For example, see, suppose we are applying the effects here. Let's take our project and let's write some styles. You can write external style sheet or you can write embed. Temporarily, I am writing inside here itself. So I am removing this. We have headings, heading 2 HTML, heading 2 CSS, heading 2 some JavaScript. Here I'm adding style and we have to write some set of effects. That means we have to enclose in flower brace. Here we have to define the effects. Suppose I am configuring the effects here. So we are defining the effects here. So in this way, we are adding the effects. So we have a attribute and value. Attribute is some background color. So suppose say background color. Okay, some dark cyan. Okay, fine. Then we have color. Say white. We have some text align. These attributes we will learn later. Yeah, first we are concentrating on selector actually. So we return some set of effects, set of attributes and values. You can write anywhere. You can write embed or you can write external style sheet anywhere. Yesterday we saw external style sheet. Now here important is you define some attributes, but you have to tell where to apply them. So you can see currently these styles that you have defined are not applied anywhere. They are not applied anywhere. You have to tell where to apply. Then you have to define the selector here actually. Selector defines where to apply these effects. Then how to write the selectors? What are the various selectors available? How to choose those effects? Let's see. That means primary selectors used in CSS are the primary selectors used in styles are, better say styles used in styles are the primary selectors. We have three selectors. One is the primary selector we have is type selector. Type selector. That is one selector. Second one is ID selector. Selector. Another one is class selector. Selector. These are primary. Again, several categories are there. I will explain them. The primary selectors are these three: type selector, ID selector, class selector. These are the primary selectors used in styles. What is type selector? Let's see. That means what is type selector? Type selector. What is the type selector? Technically, type selector is nothing but actually type selector. It specifies. That means actually it specifies it specifies directly the tag name where you want the styles to apply. It specifies directly the tag name where you want where you want to where you want the styles to apply. So type selector directly mentions the tag name where you want to apply the style. That means like div, you have to write div, like p, like h2, like some span, etc. Like this you have to write. You have to define the tag. That means now you can go here. Here selector can be type selector. Then I am using heading 2, h2. When I write h2, that means these styles will be applied to this tag everywhere. Then you can see that. So when I see everywhere they will be applied. Everywhere they will be applied. Suppose I am adding one more heading. So what is good and bad? So wherever that element comes, you want effect there. Then this is the best way. Use a type selector. Suppose I am adding another heading saying welcome to CSS, welcome to styles. And I will save this, and you can see that that is also applied with the same effect. But I don't want the first heading to use these effects because I want separate for it. Then this is problem. You can write inside it now, but that is not good because you are writing styles and it is applying everywhere. But at some locations I don't want styles at all. I want it plain. That means you cannot ignore the effects that you have defined for any occurrence of element in the page. You cannot ignore. That means what is problem in the type selector? So you cannot ignore effects for any specific occurrence of element, any specific occurrence of element. So defined occurrence of element defined with the same tag, that is problem. You cannot ignore effects for any specific occurrence of element defined with same tag. That means the effects will apply everywhere. That is the problem with type selector. So technically, type selector is good when you want the same effects to apply everywhere. It's not if you want to ignore any specific. So type selector, its importance is that actually this is example of type selector. So this is the example for type selector. So how we define the type selector. This is example for type selector. This is how the type selector works. So this is one example how type selector works. Important is that means here we have to define the tag name. And apply. I'm writing only one, you can write any. So actually what you can do is you can group the type selectors. You can group the type selectors. That is same effects can be used for multiple can be used for multiple elements. Same effects can be used for multiple elements. Same effects can be used for multiple elements. So you can group the type selectors. That means, suppose I have a data list. In that, you have data list. In that, we have data term. So, and data term is normal element. We have data definition. It returns a presentation. Okay. Another data term, void element. So it will not return a presentation like this. Now, very important is wherever the data terms are used, I want same effects like headings. Then what I can do is I can group now like H2, comma, and DT. That means it will apply at these two locations. I will save this and you can see it applies both locations. Normal element, void element. You can group. Then all such elements will apply with the same effects. You can group with a comma, we can define that. This is grouping of styles selectors actually. So type selectors can be grouped. So that is an example how it can group and define. So this is an example how it can define and group. Here we are using two options. We can group any number, any multiple things we can define. That is type selector. So that is one problem with type selector. So the problem with type selector is this. This is type selector. The problem with the type selector is that, right? Technically, type selector. So what type selector specifies is type selector specifies the tag name. So the problem is at every occurrence, the same effect will be applied. You cannot ignore it. That is the problem with the type selector. Then what you can do is to overcome this problem, you can use an ID selector. You can use an ID selector. What is ID selector actually? ID selector is every element can be defined with an ID. Every element can be defined with an ID. You can access the ID of element. You can access the ID of element. So, and apply effects. Actually, its direction is different generally. So that is general thinking of anyone, like it will have an ID, we will access it. But it is a different scenario actually. ID selector means generally people think these 2 points, but its original implementation is different actually. So many people think that already we know that, right? ID is unique. But here the point is not that actually. Actually, the point here is, let's see in a CSS way what actually it is. Styles can define a set of effects effects with an reference hash, with an ID reference hash and any unique ID. Styles are defined. Styles can be defined. Styles can define a set of effects with an ID reference, that is hash any unique ID. Now what happens is any HTML element can access these effects by referring to ID. Any HTML element can access these effects by referring to ID. So that means the basic syntax will be like this: hash effect name, and you define some attributes. Attribute and value. And what you have to do is, you want to access them, then we can use ID and we can access that effect name. That means those effects are applied here. Actually, any element can access that and use it. Any element can access that, use it. In a page, generally, when you learn about ID, one word is very common, like you say that ID is unique. ID is unique in the declaration area, not in the implementation area. Here in the declaration, it should be unique. That means there cannot be anyone else again by using the same name effect. In implementing, you can access any number of times for any number of element. So that means if anyone asks, you said it is unique. Yes, it is unique, but unique means in the declaration part, it will be unique every time, not where you implement it. While declaring, there cannot be any another ID by this name. While implementing, you can access and use it any number of times. That reference can be used any number of times for any element. That is ID selector. What is the speciality of this ID selector? Advantage of this ID selector is you can apply effects only to the element that you want. You can apply effects only to the element that you want. That is good. That is one advantage of ID selector. You can see now what I am doing is I am defining here selector is removed and it is removed. Now it is not there. I am defining hash effects. Okay. This is an ID selector. I will save this now. I will save this here. And I am configuring. You can observe here, nothing changed. Because now which element want to use these effects that can access by using ID? Suppose I want to apply only for first heading. Then here I can access that by using ID. ID is equal to, so that is effects. Case sensitive, you have to exactly write how you are configuring them in the declaration and save this. And you can see that that effects will be applied here. I want to apply for a data term called void element. To that data term and apply that effects. So wherever you want, you can apply. To whichever element you want, you can apply. If that element is capable of showing those effects, it will. Because every element may not have capable of showing. Why? Because suppose for a text box, background color, or some text area you set background color, forecolor, and alignment. You will see them until or unless some data is present there, right? So here it will apply. You can see it will apply. So what is the advantage of the ID selector? You can configure and you can access and use for any element you want. It's good. This is ID selector. But ID selector also have a problem. So what this is ID selector. ID selector also have a problem. So let's see that. So I will copy this. This is an example of ID selector. This is example for ID selector. Here we are applying at two locations. So here the ID is applied. The ID is applied. So that is the ID effects declared and you are using that. The problem is there. What is problem in this selector is, one of the main problem with this selector is every HTML tag can use you can say that can refer to only one ID. Every HTML tag can refer to only one ID. Now we have problem. The problem is if your styles are defined in multiple groups. Styles are defined in multiple groups. You cannot apply all groups to one element. That is one problem here. I will show you that. If your styles are defined in multiple groups, you cannot apply all groups to one element. That is problem. Generally, we have this issue. The issue is nothing but I will remove this category now. Okay. Here also I will remove effects. Okay. And here also I remove the effects. Fine. I don't need all this, just headings are enough as of now. Okay. Now the point is here, I am writing the styles. When we are writing the styles, we have an habit of grouping all these according to their behavior. For example, hash, that is ID. This is back effects. When you are writing styles, it is good you can use a hyphen. Back effects, we are writing like this. You can use hyphen. Hyphens are recommended to use when you are categorizing in a prefix and suffix style. Okay, back effects, I'm using background color, some dark cyan. For some elements, I want only background. For some, I want only foreground. For some elements, I want only border. Then you cannot write all styles at one place and apply, because all will apply. I want a good classification of categories of styles. So background related effects at one place. Okay, currently I just used background color. Next, hash text effects. Text effects. In text effects, so I will apply color as white. So color as suppose yellow like this. And here background color as some red. Okay. Now important, that is text effect. One more is text align. Text align to center. This is text effects. Okay. I have another hash border effects. Border effects. In this border effects, we are applying only border. So temporarily I am writing border 2 pixel solid. So some red directly like this I define. Okay. So that is gray. Okay, like this. Now I will save this here. You can see now. So these are the IDs. 3 IDs are there. I want to apply those effects to heading. Now you can't apply. Why? Because for heading 1, I am writing first heading, I am writing an ID. I am writing back hyphen effects. I am using back effects. And you can see here background effects applied. Now I want another effect. You cannot have multiple IDs for an element. I am writing another ID. I am writing text effects. I am writing text effects. And it's not working here. You can see it's not working. So I remove this back effects ID. Then only text effects applied. Then text effects only will work. That means only one ID allowed. Okay, we will try like this. Back effects, back hyphen effects, effects, comma, text effects. I will save this. And you can see it not working. I am using some back effects, space text effects. You can see it's not working. It's not possible. That means now you cannot apply multiple groups of effects to one element through ID selector. This is problem. That is the problem. That is the major issue with styles. Major issue with styles. So that means here, suppose I am writing the same here, copy and example to show that it is not possible, right? And this is here. And here, this is, so this is invalid. That means this is invalid. I'm just defining heading, right? This is invalid. This is invalid. Invalid. You cannot do in this way. You cannot do in this way. That is invalid, right? That is invalid. So you cannot apply like this. This is not correct. That is the problem with the ID selectors. ID selectors are good, but we have some issues with this ID selector. That is the problem with ID selector. Then you have another option here now. You can use a class selector. You can use a class selector. Actually, a class selector is defined by using dot operator, and a reference name, dot operator and a reference name, So the effects are accessed, effects are applied, or you can simply say that classes. So classes are applied to any element by using class attribute. Class attribute. What is the specialty is every element can implement multiple classes, can implement multiple classes separated with comma, separated with commas. That means separated with this comma symbol, separated with comma symbol. Every element can implement multiple classes separated with not comma, spaces, separated with spaces, not comma. Comma is grouping right there. Here it is separated with spaces. Multiple classes, every element can implement multiple classes separated with spaces. Yeah. Means how you can define the effects. So let's go here. This is not possible. It's not working. So you see it's not working. So you cannot apply that. So then I will remove this. Okay, those effects are not working here. I will change these IDs to class, a dot, and a dot, and a dot. Class selector starts with a dot. Remember, you can have combinations. When you write styles, some effects you can write for type selector. Some effects you can write for ID. Some effects you can write for class. It's not like all should be class. And important is here. So you can apply one effect with ID. You can apply another effect with class like this. But when you are using class, you don't need this anymore. So you can apply through class only everything. All right. You can have both combinations also. It's your wish. So now the point is here. Here, all these are class selectors. And this class selectors. So we have to access for first element. I'm using class. And here in the class, I'm applying back hyphen effects. And you can see back effects applied for that. I want to apply text effects, then space text hyphen effects. And text effects also applied. You can see center with yellow. Now, I don't want border for it. If you want, you can apply. Suppose say border effects. So then border effects also applied here. That means border effects also applied here. So border color is some different color. Some yellow is the border color. And you can see border color will be there. Border thickness is some 4. And you can see the thickness will be there. You can apply. Similarly, now I want only text effects to apply for the second heading, CSS heading. Then here I can apply class is equal to text effects. That means only text effects will be applied for that. I want only border for this JavaScript. Then I can apply border effects, and you can see only border effects will be applied for it. So it depends on your requirement. Now what is advantage is every element can implement multiple effects, can define multiple effects. That's what we can do. So that is done by using a class selector. And multiple classes are applied and configured by using spaces. And here you can see I am applying This is an example for it, right? Now, I already told you, you can use one ID, one class. You can use ID several classes. It's your wish. Nobody can ask like which one is best, because there is nothing like best, because so nobody says that. Nobody can. If anybody is asking that question, that's foolish question, right? So how you decide which one is best for my application, right? That means there is nothing like best, because every effect have its own problems. So you cannot use for that. So you have a lot of problems actually with class selectors, ID selectors in future, because generally when we are using classes later in future, when you are object oriented programming, so dynamical, if you want to apply the effects and through classes and all, you have one problem is already used by some scripting languages, programming languages, and sometimes unknowingly multiple effects are rendered to it. We don't want to it happen. All such situations you will see in JavaScript how to handle them. So every selector has its own issues. It depends on the requirement. Suppose you may ask, like, when I am using these class selectors, can I use others also? Yes, you can use others. Why? Because suppose the body, entire body should have margin left, margin right, some padding, and with some font. Then what you have to do is you can directly, a body is only one, then you can simply say, so we can define margin. So margin as some 50 pixels margin, and body font. So font face, font family. We are applying some Arial like font family. Then you can see everywhere the entire font is changed this, and 50 margin will be there, left, right, and top, bottom. We can use combination. That means we can have type selector, we can have ID selector, we can have class selectors, all can be in your styles. We want same. For few occasions, we can use classes, and few unique, then you can go with IDs, depends on requirement. These are the primary selectors actually. These are the primary selectors. Now, primary selectors, that is three important selectors you understood, right? How to define and use them. Already I told you what is problem with class selector. Were you not there? Just now I discussed about the problems with select class selector. So technically, the point is when you are referring the elements, configuring the elements, where to apply the effects, how to apply the effects depending on these selectors. Now, the selectors are further categorized. These are the primary. The selectors are further categorized. So what are the categories? The categories of selector categorized. Actually, selectors we can use with various combinations. So like you have style selectors, actually CSS selectors. CSS selectors are further classified into various groups based on their behavior. So based on the behavior, they are classified into several types, several groups actually. Further categorizations are there. So, which you can apply through class or ID, you can choose them. Actually, the groups are nothing but we have selectors like, so this is a selector, yeah. We have selectors like, we call as rational selectors, or you can also call as combination selectors actually, combinators. Actually, we have combinators. Combinators, or you can call them as rational selectors. Combinators are rational selectors. So, or parent, this is depending on parent-child hierarchy. We will see that. We have attribute selectors. Attribute selectors. So we have pseudo selectors. Pseudo selectors. We have structural pseudo selectors. Structural pseudo selectors. Pseudo selectors. Selectors. They're again further categorized into several groups depending on how they behave actually. So rational, combinator, attributes, pseudo selectors like that. Actually, so what are these combinations? So how to use this? So let's see what are these combinations and how do we deal with the combinations. Actually, rational or combinators, these are based on parent and child hierarchy. Based on parent and child hierarchy. That means it depends on the relationship with other elements based on parent and child hierarchy, as well as the relationship with other elements, relationship with other elements. That's what actually rational combinators are. Here we have several combinators, like we have a descendant selector, we have a child selector, adjacent selector, general sibling selectors, like separate categories are there. For example, so let's see how we can manage them, how we can configure and use them. So these are again categorized into several types now. So actually, so this rational selectors means how and where they affect, based on that they are categorized actually. How we can define the selector. So we have a selector, and we have the CSS specification, how you can define and what is the purpose. Actually, description, yeah. Generally, selector, we have a descendant selector. What is descendant selector and how this descendant selector works? So let's see. Actually, to configure that, I will keep here some ordered list. In that we have HTML and we have CSS. So we have some JavaScript, something like this. This is ordered list. That means here we are applying effects. Now, one of the main problem we will face is same element li can be there for unordered list also. You have ul, it have li. So you can use li for both ordered list and unordered list. So here we are using website. Here we are using web page. Here we are using URL. So server like this. Suppose this is heading like web technologies, right? And this is heading like so web terminology like this. Now what the point here is, now I want to apply colors for this list item, effects for that list item. Then you cannot write li. If I write li and say color as red, now everywhere wherever li is there, it will apply both for ordered and unordered also. No, I want to apply only for ordered list. I want to apply. Then how you can define that? So descendant selection. That means what you can do is here OL and space li. OL space li. So that means what happens is it will apply to all list items inside this ordered list. It apply all inside this list, right? That is important. That means it will for ordered list. Now this will not affect everywhere. You can see this is working for only order. We have to use space. That means this is a descendant selection. So descendant selection means it will target all the list items that are inside ordered list only, and very important, it can be any levels. For example, inside this ordered list for HTML, I have another ordered list. It is having list item, and here I said void elements, and another list item normal elements. Now usually you can see when I define this, it will apply everywhere. That means remember this is a multi-level hierarchy. In the multi-level hierarchy also it is applying that. Everywhere it will apply. That means descendant selector actually, so it can target all tags. So under specified parent, all tags under specified parent. So it includes all it includes any level hierarchy. That means any level hierarchy it includes. It will. So this is not only for ordered list and unordered list. Any level hierarchy it will apply, not only ordered and unordered list. Just example for this. The example for this. So this is an example. This is an example for descendant selector. How you can configure the descendant selector. So descendant selectors. So you are using a space here. Configuring the descendant selector. It targets all. Now don't think that it is always ordered list and unordered list like things. It can be anything for paragraphs. So a paragraph inside a paragraph, another paragraph, there can be multiple, anything. Suppose I'm configuring here, I'm removing this here. I'm applying for a div, right? And in this div, we have a paragraph. Some para one, and we are defining So we have para 1. So we have para 2. This is 2 paragraphs. And I want to apply for that. Now, actually, in this div, in this div, in this paragraphs, there can be some more divs and paragraphs also. Suppose you have another div. And in this div, so here we have a heading. That means some text, some heading, some text. Okay. And under that we have another paragraph. Under that another paragraph. This is para 3. Para 3. And we want to apply for div. So for div. In the div, I want to apply for paragraph P. And you are applying for div paragraph. And it will apply here. For every paragraph it is applying. That is descendant selection. Now there is another technique here. We can use an greater than symbol like this. That means this is the parent and this is the child. When you define the parent and child without space like this, so this is also applying everywhere. This is also applying everywhere. But there are certain restrictions. There is another technique here. So you can use a plus operator here. So the plus operator have a different meaning here. We can use a tilde operator. I will show you different things. Descendant means tilde operator. Tilde operator will have a different meaning here. Actually, descendant means again several options will be there. Initially, those all requires different effects to understand here. Initially, this is space. We discussed about only space. Generally, you will see so many things: angle braces, plus mark, tilde symbol. There are certain meanings for them, how to use them, that we will see. When I put a space, this means first thing what we discussed. If I put a space, that means wherever that element comes, at any level the element comes, it will apply everywhere. That is what actually descendant selector. We have not only descendant selector, we have child selector, adjacent selector, general selectors, and we have the selectors, attribute selectors, pseudo selectors, that we will see tomorrow. We will continue in tomorrow's session, right? Tomorrow mostly we can finish majority of all the selectors, because a lot of selectors are there. Only selectors in tomorrow's sessions we have to complete. Then we can go with attributes, how to apply headings, paragraphs, and other options, right? Tomorrow we'll continue with.